Добар ден и добродојдовте во неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа. Гостин оваа недела е директорот на Националниот демократски институт во Македонија, господинот Крис Хеншо. Mr. Henshaw, the OSCE and ODIHR have noted that most of their remarks have been taken into consideration. Does this warrant for a factual implementation of these remarks?
It's excellent to see that there's been some negotiations and discussions on improving the electoral code. I think the process, though, is a starting process. Post these elections, I think it's an area that will need some attention and further improvements. I mean, the electoral code is a living document. It doesn't just stop. It needs to be constantly checked, looked at, and obviously the ODIHR report for these upcoming elections, both the presidential and the parliamentary one, will need to be taken into account for the future.
You've seen many elections since you've been here. What are your thoughts on the frequency of voting?
You are right, absolutely, very right. I came here in 2004. There were double elections in 2009, and there will be double elections this year. That's altogether 11 elections in 10 years. That squeezes out the space for good governance, and often you find parties are in a constant campaigning mode. So one's hoping that post these elections, the next scheduled elections or municipal elections for 2017, there is an opportunity, after all, the two highest offices in the country, the presidential elections and parliament, for a new start. Europe goes to the polls this year. You know, it could be a sort of energizing of the whole Euro-Atlantic integration process, and some time for good governance to fit in the next few years.
There have been announcements about possible boycotts of the presidential elections. Political comments aside, how should the system respond to such situations in a democratic society?
I have, as well as being over 10 years seeing a large number of elections, I've also sadly seen the boycott used, whether it's boycotting elections, threats of boycotting elections. Also, we've had the situation where Parliament has had boycotts. Generally speaking, looking back over it, very little seems to have been gained from that. And the democratic process needs participation. Boycott works against that. In terms of some of the comments that have been made about the presidential elections, I think it's early days. You know, the election is not until 27th of April, the second round. With 6 weeks away, we'll see how things sort of work out between now and then. But generally speaking, quite often by boycotting something, you're actually using the opportunity to express your wish, your view. I often say when talking to people, you know, whether it's the UK, where I come from, or here, quite often people say, you know, I'm not voting in this election because the candidates, I don't agree with any of them.
Is that a healthy attitude?
I don't think so. I think that, you know, people have fought hard for the right to have a vote. And if you genuinely don't feel that any of the candidates support what you want are not for you, still go to the polls and vote. Vote, you know, you can make a mark on your ballot paper. Show that you are still interested in the future of the society in which you are voting.
The media seem to be a cause of concern lately, especially having in mind that foreign organizations have noted a decline in media freedom and professional standards. Can this situation deteriorate the voters' access to information before and after the elections, especially about possible irregularities?
The state of media, where it is in Macedonia at the moment, is a matter of concern for NDI. In the interview I gave to yourself over a year ago, we pointed out there at the time that we'd reached a position whereby Macedonia had gone from 2009 being 34th in the world in Journalists Without Frontiers to 116th. You know, it's now gone down this year again to 123rd, and that is an issue. It is something that Macedonia needs to address.
I believe that the NDI has faced problems before previous elections in organizing of the candidate debates on the national TV stations. Are you going to be working on this activity this year? And if so, do you foresee any complications?
It's always a challenge when you're starting something new. When we had these candidate debates for the local elections last year, that was the first time that we'd done it in a way that was modeled on the presidential debate system in the United States. This time, we're going again. We've been talking to four candidates and the parties they represent At the moment, the response is a positive one. I'm hoping that, you know, we'll have all 4 candidates as part of that. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to start to turn the tables around in terms of the position of the media in Macedonia. After all, the ODIHR report from last year commented on partisan media coverage. It commented on the fact that, you know, there were not independent debates, even though NDI had set out to organize them. We are now doing it again. It's an excellent opportunity in these elections to say, look, yes, we value an independent media, we value broadcasting where political opponents are able to debate in a constructive way. Yes, we'll be part of it. So we're working on that. We're negotiating with national TV stations. It's on a bigger scale than it was for the local elections last year. And I'm positive. I always am positive. I think it's important to be positive. And I hope, yes, we'll have four candidates.
Do you have the sense that the TV stations have changed their tune since the last time?
Last time we were working with the state broadcaster, the independent state broadcaster. This time we're looking at the private media. We're looking at other TV stations. I don't think it would be appropriate to say who we're talking to, but I feel very positive that this time we will have debates in which all 4 candidates will take part. There are still days to go, but yes.
Journalists often complain when it comes to media freedom that if they publish, they will perish. So especially when it comes to certain critical reports. The fines are high, and according to reports from US intelligence, the government has a heavy influence on the judiciary. Are we looking at a strong threat to expression before elections, or just the media pulling back, so not able or unwilling to fight as such?
I wouldn't know how the media is viewing these elections and how it's viewed the recent discussions about media freedom in relation to elections and the electoral code. And that is again why I come to the point how important it is to have these presidential candidate debates. NDI has championed this in Serbia and in Bosnia, and in Serbia, you know, as we speak, with the elections taking place at the moment, there list carriers are debating on TV, you know, issues of importance to the electorate, and I think, you know, Macedonia is certainly capable of doing the same. So I think this would be a good opportunity to show that yes, you know, candidates can debate, and it is something that the electorate wants to see.
Mr. Henshaw, can you give us a brief overview of NDI's activities in view of the elections?
NDI's activities with these elections is focused mainly on the debate, on candidate debates, presidential debates. But what we're also focused is what happens next. These are also parliamentary elections. We have a large program that focuses on Parliament. And it's an opportunity for a fresh Parliament, and there will be new MPs, to start where the present Parliament left off. And that is looking at oversight, you know, moving that process on institutionally in parliamentary oversight of government, because a lot has been gained in that particular area. Also looking at the Parliamentary Institute, which we've worked on and implemented with support from funding from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. And that, you know, will be there for the new intake of MPs, so they will have access to a research and analysis service. There is an education service there that will be able to provide support to MPs and outreach, and a brand new state-of-the-art library and onto an archiving system. So there are huge opportunities. Much has been achieved, but there's a lot more to do. So yes, there are challenges ahead, but NDI is well placed, you know, to contribute to its partners in Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Henshaw.
Thank you.
Тоа се за ова издание на неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа. Повторна средба за 7 дена.